Hello. Welcome. Bonjour. Guten Tag. How is everybody? Hope everybody is okay. You guys hearing me? Well, I guess because I don't see an indication, but I guess it's okay. Beer time. Today, a Rickards White. Yes, a Rickards White. This is my beer for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for confirming that you're hearing me. Hello, everybody. Let's put the Rickards White. Sure, it's good. There we go. That's nice. And of course, what goes with a white is, of course, orange. And here we go. Cheers, everybody. Welcome, everyone, to the live show tonight. Wednesday live show. Been feeling weird for the past 2 days. For a moment there, I was thinking, well, could I be the next one with the virus? But no, I think it's just the weather. I don't know. It's kind of tired. And just not being myself. That's actually the main reason why Sunday I took it easy. It was like, one of those times when you feel like crap. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to just take it easy. I actually went to bed. Last night was, sometimes it's cool. Not cool to be sick or whatever. But last night I went to bed with a radio. And, without going too much in these times of complex, things with viruses, tuning the medium wave or the AM band is kind of interesting at night right now. And basically, it's kind of interesting because it gives you a feel of what's happening. Because, I know we get tons of news of what's happening, and we overload on what's happening, honestly. And radioactive. Hey, we're in confinement. We can't have anybody over. It has to be a radio. So basically, it's easy to have an overload of information with what's happening if we listen too much. But it's different when we listen to it in an angle where what we're listening to is from some other place, from somewhere else. Because we all deal with it in a similar way, but a different way at the same time. And we're not all at the same level. And here I hear all the stations from the state of New York, which is, Northeast and from the US, one of the most affected places. And it is kind of interesting, because you also can see, you can hear and feel how it's happening everywhere and what's happening everywhere, and see how everybody's coping with it. So, even though you're still in the sphere of all that's happening, you got to take on how it's dealt with everywhere else. And it's kind of interesting, So last night I listened to that, and I was reading my April, because I've been I almost never didn't read the April spectrum monitor, and I was reading the spectrum monitor yesterday. I was reading about the MFJ 1026, I believe, is the number. The MFJ 1026 is kind of a noise canceller. I was looking at that. Should I order one and try it out here? Especially with two antennas, I could put two MLA30s on it, one for receive and one for the noise. See how it works. It could be interesting. I don't know. I was thinking, it gave me an idea of maybe purchasing one just for the test purposes and see how it's handled here with all the noise. So it's kind of interesting. And David, Montreal is about, I don't know, Montreal is something like 60 miles, about 60 miles from the U.S. border, 60, 70 miles. We're not very far from the border here. It's, before 9/11, when we didn't need any papers, which was really cool times. We'd call my brother and say, "Hey, let's go to the U.S." and we'd go to Plattsburgh, New York, or Burlington, and Vermont. And we just, it's like we'd wake up in the morning and say, "Hey, want to go to the U.S. today?" And we just, drive and go to Burlington, Vermont, and so on. Did that so many times. Actually, it's really cool times. And so, of course, on the AM band. So here on the FM, I have the VPR. Station, which is the Vermont Public Radio station on 107.9, which comes in really well in general. And of course, on the AM band at night, I hear New York, I hear Boston, I hear in Northeast states, pretty much all of the big gun stations from the Northeast states are all coming in well. So I can hear the different traffic from everywhere. It's really cool. And it's a lot of fun. I always find interesting to listen to, New York stations and so on. So it's one of those things that you so last night, it's good, because in the bedroom, if I don't set up some kind of antenna somehow, shortwave's kind of tough. So when I went to bed, I was like, well, I didn't feel like setting up anything or setting up the AN48X or whatever. It's just I'm just gonna lay in bed, read. So I turned to the the medium wave band, and I tuned the medium wave band slowly to hear what was happening. It's kind of interesting because it's although it's like I said, although it's similar, it's a different take. Seeing how everybody's dealing with all that's happening. Here we're in confinement, but they started kind of teensy-wincy opening today. I believe they let construction and garages open for the first time. They're going in steps, so we'll see how it happens and how it goes. But it's confinement for you, and it's kind of interesting. It's one of those weird moments in life that we'll remember forever. I found one joke funny, though. Somebody said everybody's going to remember where they were in confinement at home. I was like, yeah, okay. Okay, I'll take that joke. Welcome, everybody. This is the Shortwave Show. We are live twice a week, and that is on Wednesday and on Friday. And I get rants for the Wednesday show, but I get rants for the Friday show also. It's a very complex issue. You got to remember one thing: it's that here I have to deal with an audience that's all around the world. And although, yes, the bulk of my audience is North America and Europe and South America, and that time zone can be easily put into one moment, which is the Friday show brings that. The Friday 20 UT show brings Europe and North America together at some point. There's a lot of people. I've got my fair share of Indian listeners. So India, Pakistan, Nepal. We've got some people from Australia, Japan. And so, when people say, well, that show is too late. Yeah, but I'm thinking of, That's why there's two shows, actually. The one here, which favors Asia, Pacific, and in India, Pakistan, Nepal, and all of these people are happy. They have a decent time that they can actually listen to my show. But at the same time, I totally understand that you guys in Europe, it's middle of the night, but that's why there's a Friday show to have you guys in the evening. And also, what happens here is that, 20 UTC and Fridays, 4 p.m., it's 1 p.m. in the Pacific. People that work are working while I'm doing the show. And so this show at 8 p.m., well, it's 5 p.m. Pacific. It's, the workday is ending. People are capable of enjoying a show in the evening or early evening. It's a complex thing. It's something, that's where we have a big world around us that is 24 hours, and it's a complex thing. And to be there and tell everybody, that I got to choose a time when I'm gonna be live. I have to think about those things. You got to think who's listening, who's going to be listening. And that's why I had a second show, because, for a long time we only had Friday. And I had a second show because I wanted to have a different time zone capability, different people around the world capable of listening in. But, whatever time you'll choose, you will be cutting out people. And that, unfortunately, is a thing that happens. So, that's why we had two shows. Some, part of the shows for those of you that don't sleep, you can listen to it. There are people out there that I'm lucky. I'm the kind of guy that I just go to bed and I sleep like, that'd be the end of the world in a nuclear war, and I wake up in the morning. It's like, what the hell? Nobody around anymore. I'm the kind of guy that sleeps really, really like a log. But a lot of people are, insomniacs and whatever, and wake up in the middle of the night and don't know what to do. Well, part of the audience that's like that. Well, I'm here, and it could be, other things. Sometimes people have anxiety and they wake up in the middle of the night, feel alone. Hey, I'm here, on a Wednesday or Thursday for the most part, because for a big chunk of the world, it's Thursday. But it's part of trying to build an audience, trying to get as many people as possible, and so that's why I have two shows. To be able to get around the world and have as many people from as many countries listening in. So, anyways, it's kind of cool. It's cool to be here on a Wednesday, and hope that you guys will enjoy the show as usual. It's always kind of fun to be here. A lot of 10-meter activity in the last couple of days. I actually had the Yaesu FT450 on 10 meters while I was actually tuning other frequency ranges on the SDR. And I mean, this morning, yesterday evening, even some FM repeaters. There's a lot of stuff. I don't know tonight here. Let me just check it out here. 27025. Enter. Anything. There's it seems to be a little quiet. No, maybe not that much. Let me check it out here. I'll put this. So we'll see what's on. 27165. That's a guy. That probably looks like there's a gang on sideband on channel 16. Oops. Yeah, they're on tonight. 27165. There's a gang talks about radio and all sorts of things. But I mean, there has been so much activity yesterday and today that on 10 meters and CB band 11 meters. Auto band calling frequencies of 27555. It's kind of cool. So cheers everybody with my Rickards white and a little bit of orange in it. So, my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America, and got a beautiful chat room, amazing people. We also have a great Facebook group, official SWL channel, that you can join and keep it clean, and no mentioning of any politicians or any religion. The only religion we want to have is radio. So that's the only thing we want to talk about, radio. And I hope everybody's having fun. And the Facebook group is great, official SWL channel. Lots of sharing of what people are listening to. I share what I'm listening to in the weekdays. So when people are, off the chat room here, we can continue talking about what's happening. Really a lot of fun. So join in. Kind of cool. Kevin Wood, nice to have you here from Nova Scotia. Bobby Burgess from Morgan City, Louisiana, WA5107. Simplio from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, USA. Simplio, 26 megahertz and up, been banging with DX. Really cool. Steve in Australia, nice to have you here, my friend. Ray Carlisi, nice to have you here. Happy Wednesday. Rufus Newt from Laurentian Valley, Ontario. James Farley, nice to have you on board from Old Bridge, New Jersey. So the K180 is shipped. So I don't know when I'm going to get it, but it was shipped yesterday morning. So this is going to be interesting. I can't wait to get it. Now I got 3 loops on my balcony, so I'm thinking, well, I'm going to have to take one down. And you know what? I'm going to take down the big, expensive W6 LVP that I'm not happy with. So it gives you an idea, okay? A $600 antenna, and I'm going to put it down. Well, I'm not going to put it down. I am going to install it in the backyard and use the feed line that I have from my sloper antenna. And so, it'll be in a different place. I'm going to try to install it differently. I don't know how yet. It's time to think. But I'll put it in the backyard and see what happens with that. So, Jasmine, nice to have you on board from Seattle. Rob in Phoenix, Arizona. Nice to have you here. WF7I Ombro. Hey, from Central Virginia. R. Walker, nice to have you here. Washington State. Eyebrawler from Arkansas. Bobby Burgess, test good. Cool. Everybody's hearing me. Cool. Frank, Ireland, nice to have you here. Arthur's Alley Crafter's Kitchen from Massachusetts. Nice to have you here. Joe Rotman in Chicago. David, KJ4CMY, happy to be here. Frank Ireland is in Tampa, Florida. Mark Elford, nice to have you here from Vancouver Island. Cool. Pacific Northwest. Radioactive, hey, nice to have you here. Dan V from Ohio and 8WJZ. Frank Ireland is N4OAA. Simply is on 2831383. Jasmine, I have a question. I have 2 SLR SDRs and 1 MLA30. I'd like to have both use the MLA30. What should I do? Look, a T connector isn't the best option. That's for sure. But if you are thinking of using both SDRs at the same time, it's pretty much your only option. A T connector, so that you can share your SDR. So if you want to use them both at the same time and compare, that's the way to go. If you just want to use one at a time, an antenna switch is the other way to go. But if you want to use them at the same time, T connector, I mean, any connector and any antenna switch that you will add to an antenna circuit will have a slight attenuation effect. An antenna is made to be connected directly to the receiver to have its best signal quality. But we have these moments where we need to use sometimes, T connectors or antenna switches and stuff like that. And if you use a good quality T connector or a good quality antenna switch, the loss is not enough to really cause a concern, honestly. I do it all the time. I actually, I don't know how many times I got people saying, well, you were testing 3 portables and you use alligator clips against the portables to have them run at the same time. That is a bad configuration. You can't test like that. I'm sorry, my tests were really good, and my tests were very worthy of being what they are and what they were. I understand. In a perfect world, I would have to have the perfect connector. Is my channel the perfect world of shortwave? No, it's not. It's the real world of shortwave, okay? There's people out there that are nuts about perfectness and don't want to have their perfect antenna switch with gold-plated connectors and everything in a best possible situation. Fine. There are people out there that do that and that are working like that. If that's what you are searching for, that's where you should go. Here, I'm in a real world. Everybody listens to shortwave and the channel and are trying to find a way to connect something to something else. This is the place to be. Where, look, an alligator clip goes a very long way when you want to do things. Of course, you don't use a 50 feet wire and alligator clip. That's a different story. But come on, 3 receivers next to each other, it works. Come on, stop being picky about very, very simple details that, I'm sorry, but in my type of testing with no equipment, I don't have that big benchmark to do with, signal to noise ratio. And please, okay, my alligator clips work fine. And they're better than whatever you're not doing, because probably the majority of people that complain about this aren't even doing videos and aren't even testing anything. And they're like, well, you shouldn't be doing that. I don't care what you think with that, okay? Go annoy somebody else. I mean, there are things we shouldn't do. Absolutely. I totally understand that. But for the purpose of basic testing, it just works. And it's a simple solution. Oh, man, people. So, T connector, but a good one. A good quality T connector. And if you want to, if it's really one at a time, a good antenna switch. Dan 805, nice to have you here. Rob says, glad you're not sick. No, I think it's just, feeling a little under the weather. Nothing, Rufus knew none of us are ourselves. Absolutely. Tom DXer, nice to have you here. Listening from the lower Hudson Valley, New York. Joe Brown from Southeast Michigan. Clark Gilson, KB9SJD. Nice to have you here. M. Phillips, nice to have you on board. Clark Gilson in Southwest Wisconsin. Dan V, 6, 10, 11 meters open last eve. I tried 6 meters. I didn't hear anything. But 10 meters, 11 meters definitely was open here. Mark Alford, nice to have you on board. Says allergies in abundance everywhere. Yeah, I am allergic a little bit. I probably have a very small, in the summertime, a very, very small allergy to the environment. But it's very small in my case compared to a lot of people. And I am allergic to Paul the cat, which is funny because I do have reactions when we're really intense. If I play with Paul or stuff like that, sometimes get little bumps and stuff. I used to be very allergic to cats, but over time it kind of attenuated because I wouldn't be able to have Paul if it wasn't for that. Redolva 65 from New York City. Esteban from the Canary Islands. Welcome aboard, my friend. James Farley, 11 meters open. in his neck of the woods. Northern Dawn, nice to have you on board from the UK. Happy Thursday morning. David says, when I was a teen in upstate New York, we went to Quebec on a day, a long day trip. It was quite an experience. Mickey Dalmage, nice to have you here from Shortwave Park, Alberta, Canada. Fast Load from Montreal, nice to have you here. Hal Slavinsky, bring back Radio Canada International. I'd like that. Unfortunately, it's not that. It will never be. But, oh man. Simplio says, parking my rat Radio Shack on 27385. I call it a rat radio because it has been used heavily for the last 6 years. My video clips reflect that. Cool. I like a radio that's used. I mean, I'd rather have a radio that's used than a really big gun, expensive radio that never is used. Kel Mahane, nice to have you here from Yokohama, Japan. Pretty cool. Northern Don been listening to CB on a portable. Cool. Ron Deming from the Oregon coast. Nice to have you here. Terry Cook. Nice to have you on board. KF7BQ in Western Montana. VT Radio. Nice to have you on board. Says VPR is probably a mile from my house. I gave a friend gave a tour. That place is a palace. Very high tech. Mostly from donations. Yeah, it works from donations. And the funny part is that the Vermont Public Radio station, I was listening in because, it packs a good signal here on 107.9 in Montreal. And obviously, they work on the fact that they are heard in southern Quebec really well for their, when they do the fund drive, the donations. And I believe they were saying that something like 40, as much as 40% of all the money that goes into Vermont Public Radio actually comes from Canadian donors from southern Quebec, from Montreal. So there's an audience out there. I'm part of it. I like listening to VPR. For several reasons. It gives me kind of a pulse. A little bit of a pulse on U.S. Politics and all of that. Because here in Canada, we have the superficial look at what's happening. But it's fun to have a look from the inside because it gives you more ideas and more of a... it kind of drives your opinion differently because you understand why some things happen. It's like if you guys in the U.S. would hear Canadian politics, you would understand a little more why this and that is happening in different parts of the country. And what I mostly listen to is the BBC NewsHour. So at 9 a.m. on the morning, every day at 9 a.m., BBC NewsHour is actually rebroadcast over VPR. And it really packs a good signal. I don't have a portable. Oh, I got a portable here. Is the battery okay? Let's see. To give you guys an idea of how it comes in, usually well, if I can FM.
The conditions for getting the stimulus checks can in some cases be difficult for people.
This is how well we get 107.9, and this is from Burlington, Vermont, which is about roughly 100 kilometers away. So that's the VPR listening. So it gives you an idea, and I just I didn't even open it completely. I just opened it like this to have a little better signal. But 9 a.m. Every day, I kind of listen to the BBC NewsHour. What else do we have? Rob, I'm glad you have 2 shows per week. So, Friday, there's the Sunday one that sometimes happen. It did happen for 3 weeks in a row. I took Sunday off last Sunday, and I'm sure there's going to be other Sundays. Al Slavinsky, do you broadcast on the radio? Nope. Unless a pirate broadcasts what I'm saying. David, KJ4CMY, different cultures, but all have radio in common. Absolutely. And, honestly, we're not all that different, whatever culture. Roughest Newt, who the heck cares about what day or time it is these days? We're all at home. We're all listening. Ooh, what is sleep? Why do we need sleep suddenly? James de Calais, bonjour et bienvenue. Nice to have you here. 2 a.m. in France. Man, if it wasn't at work, I wouldn't be watching you. Oh, you work the night shift? Oh, man, you are brave. So, nice. Fast load didn't check today, but 40 meters is blasting right now. Northern Dawn, 6 and 10 have been open as well. Randy, Riverside, California. Nice to have you here. David says, we are all confined and it doesn't really matter what time it is. Yep. Fast load. Don't have a 6 meter antenna. My dipole is deaf on that frequency. So I tried yesterday. I tried with my mobile vertical, which isn't too bad on 6 meters, but it wasn't open. And the best way to try it here is to tune into 50313 and try FT8. If I hear FT8 on 50313, that means it's open, but there was nothing yesterday. Jasmine, thanks Joe for recognizing us Pacific West Coast people in Asia. Well, it's part of the things you got to think. I got a global audience, so I got to think of different times. There's even other times I could do. There's probably like late morning for sure. Acid Froggy, nice to have you here. 40 meters been good. Lots of fun to listen. 1480. What else do we have? What else do we have? Zachary Antol, nice to have you here. Al Slavinsky. Well, Radio Netherlands and Radio Canada are gone, but there's a lot other stations there, including, just to give you an idea before the show, okay, I listened to Shortwave for the past 3 hours. I listened to the Voice of America. I listened to the Voice of Turkey. I listened to Radio Mali, Radio TV Mali. I listened to I'm trying to figure it out. I listened to a few stations anyways. Radio France. They were all coming in quite well. I heard BBC World Service 11810. So, Zachary Antol, nice to have you here. Joseph Inkenbaum, nice to have you here from Northern California. Kevin Wood, no E-skip in his area. Jerry DX, nice to have you here. What else do we have? Jay Lyle, nice to have you here. Southern Illinois, WA9211SWL. Rick Satter, nice to have you here. Zach says, I love how many memes there are about what will go bad this year. We already had Krakatoa erupt again. Chernobyl, number 2. Frank Ireland cannot wait until the Ethon satellite elite will come out. Kevin Wood. Well, Voice of America. Somebody ranted at Voice of America. Somebody famous. Vince Perrault, nice to have you on board. Unfortunately, it's complicated to talk about these things. Salut Vince, bienvenue. I think we can all agree there's a troll in the chat room anyways. Joe Rudman, WTWW 5085 transmits music. Yeah, they have music. A lot of times it's Wednesday, so at 9 p.m. in half an hour they're gonna play. They're gonna have the what is it? There's a amateur Am Nation, I think it's called, show. They're gonna talk about Am Nation. They're gonna talk about amateur radio. Tuesday evening is also fun. There's the QSO radio show, which is not bad. And if you have music, you can go to wtww.us and you can actually ask for your favorite songs to be played. Dave Belial, nice to have you here. WA1UJA, New Hampshire. And what else do we have? Dan 805. Anyone use the AOR 1000 for shortwave? I know it's a communication receiver, and I'm not sure how good it is or will work on HF. That's a good question. A lot of communications receivers aren't very, very good. Yeah, last night there was a station that was actually sending the CQD and the full Titanic broadcast in Morse code on 6925. That's kind of interesting. R. Walker, T connectors aren't the best to use due to impedance mismatches, and the SDRs causing issues like spurs with each other. Yeah, I would guess. It's for sure SDRs are a different beast to master on connecting radios together than say a portable radio. That's for sure. Friend of Crows, nice to have you here from Columbus, Ohio. Chilly and windy. Yeah, it was kind of cold here. It's 2 degrees, and there's supposed to be some snow showers tonight. I just went out for like 10 minutes for to buy my beer, because I found a neat grocery, not a grocery, it's a dépanneur, which is kind of like a 7-Eleven, or if you want, that is not very far from here. And they actually have a good choice of many things that I need, and I don't have to wait in line. So I've been going there, even though it's a little more expensive on some stuff, but not everything. There were actually some stuff there that's less expensive than in the grocery. And I thought, you know what? I need some stuff. I need milk. I'm going to go there, and I'm going to check their beer. So I got the beer there at the same time. But it was kind of cold and chilly. I was like, wow. I was wearing my my leather jacket, and I was like, and I had this underneath. I mean, I'm wearing like, several layers here, and it was cold with the wind. It was chilly. Northern Dawn, looking at a Panasonic RF 4000 the other day online. Ho. Simply using alligator clip on the 10-feet wire right now. Jerry DX only used 24 karat gold wire. Reception is great. The only problem, Jerry, is that you get your wire stolen every night. Kimberly, K6YYL, nice to have you here. Dow Jones, Monster Cable. William Moser, nice to have you here, my friend. Jim F. from Rhode Island, nice to have you here. James Farley, yeah, 4005, 6, roughly. It's there all day long, so it must be pretty close to North America. If I'm not mistaken, I had read somewhere in the past that radio teletype-ish signal is from the U.S. Navy somewhere in the East Coast. Because, in the middle of the day, 2 p.m. in the afternoon, I hear it. So it can't be very far away from here. And it's like the one on 9830 kilohertz. So if you guys listen to Voice of Turkey and at 2200 on 9830, you guys probably noticed that the first 5 minutes-ish are often interfered with a radio teletype. That is there all day long. That's also a U.S. Navy teletype. That one, I think it comes from New Jersey. And they are encrypted, so you can't really check out what's in there. William Helms, nice to have you on board, my friend from Florida. And yes, you shared that SDR. Al Slavinsky from Rochester, USA. What else do we have? Whole Radio Man, nice to have you here. ELAD, active antenna splitter. ASA15 is one way to share one receiver with a few radios. Dave O'Toole from Dublin, Ireland. Kevin Miles, raining heavily in Newfoundland. Rebel 42MDX, nice to have you here. KI5HVA in North Little Rock, Arkansas. Pretty cool. Stream is buffering, apparently, in central Georgia, says David. It depends on, I think, the ISP in many different places, because since what is happening, there's been a lot of people complaining of buffering in different parts, but not everyone. Some people have it perfect. I think the internet is highly solicited these days. I was reading an article that said that like 40% more traffic on the internet because everybody's at home, so everybody's watching something. And I mean, it's the time. If you know what, I will tell everybody something to do after this live show is ended tonight. If you love radio, take the time to sit down and think of everything radio that comes to your mind and go on YouTube search and type it. And you will see the amount of radio videos of all kinds that exist. It's amazing. You can. I remember one night a few months ago being totally bored, and I sat down in the living room with my TV, and I started searching for YouTube videos about shortwave radio. And I actually had a blast with all that I found, including old recordings of the past of shortwave broadcasts. But also you find interesting channels. You know, that's how I found Mr. Carlson's Lab, which is very interesting, by the way. And there's a lot of stuff that's really cool to listen to and to watch. Take the time. Once this show is over, you know what? Do that. You're going to be amazed, and you're going to have a blast, and you'll totally forget that you're in confinement. You're going to be like, oh, man, you know what? I don't know. I was in a cave, a radio cave for the last few months, and I was happy. Jasmine, I wish Radio Canada was still on the air. I like watching CBC to hear what is happening in British Columbia and Canada in general, but I haven't been able to since I moved out of my parents' house. They had CBC on cable. Yeah, you know, it's the same here. It's I think when we're interested in world events and stuff, you know, I like the fact that I have access to medium wave stations from the U.S. and VPR from Burlington, Vermont, to have kind of the pulse of what is happening in the U.S. Because, you know, I mean, listening to that, you hear stuff that you don't even hear on the news here. I mean, we talked about it a year and a half ago on the live show, where you guys in the U.S. don't hear what's happening in Canada, really. And I mean, in the past couple of years, past few years, what's been happening here is mostly Trump related. But remove that from our news, we don't really know what's happening in the U.S. unless there's a mass shooting somewhere, you know. And when you listen in to the AM stations like from New York and all of that, or if you listen to the VPR station like I do in the morning, what happens is you hear the other side of what's happening in the US that you have no idea here in Canada, because we don't have that much news of the US either. You know, news concentrates on very specific things, a few items around the world, a couple of items from the US, but majority is localized. But to have a broader picture and a better picture of what's happening, we need to have also a better understanding of what is actually happening in different countries, And I'm sure that, Radio Canada International brought that aspect to you guys because you were able to hear a lot more what Canada was all about. Ronald Zuccella, nice to have you here, my friend. The cornerstone of my collection is my father's 1949 Zenith Super Transoceanic. Still good on all bands for 3 years. I've been loving this program. Please stop with the ridicule. Yep. Absolutely. This is a great place to be for radio fans. Gustavo Pinto, nice to have you here from Brazil. Nice to have you on board. Searching to catch a pirate. Don't stop. Because, if I look at Montreal to Brazil, so yeah, it's a big distance. Yeah, it's a bigger distance than Europe, actually. Let me just, yeah. So we are sometimes able to hear European pirates in North America. So I would guess, I don't know. Continue listening. You might hear something. It's interesting how there seems to be a lack of pirates. There's a lot of pirates in Europe. There's some pirates in the US and maybe a couple in Canada. But have you guys noticed there's kind of a lack of pirates in South America, in Africa, and in Asia? I don't know if it's, I don't know. I think there were a few. I remember listening to Radio Piranha International from Venezuela a long time ago. But Europe and North America is where pirates are concentrated, pretty much. It's kind of interesting when you think about it. So hey guys, I'm asking you guys, come on. We want to have pirate stations from South America. Fire up those pirate stations in South America. Oh man. Rufus Newt, several recorded WeFax and SSTV, decoding them with FLDG. Cool. Jasmine wants a petition to CFRX. Problem with CFRX is they're really, really trying to kind of just have, Ontario and Northern Ontario, and that's it. And honestly, I hear CFRX all day. It ain't the best station to be raising its power. We actually really need Radio Canada International better. John M. Carrion, nice to have you here. 6 meters wide open last night. Cool. KB3H, WPE3GOC. I'll always remember when a couple of years ago I was listening to 6 meters and heard a station from Brazil, and I was astonished that 50 megahertz could propagate from Brazil to Canada. Blew my mind away. I was a little kid with my new shortwave radio again. It was just crazy. Kevin Miles, yes, would be great to hear Radio Canada International and Radio Australia back. You know what? This morning I woke up earlier than usual because last night I went to bed earlier than usual, so kind of fits together. And woke up. It was 12:30 UT, which is 8:30 a.m. here in Montreal. And of course, let's go back 10 years. Well, I would have had Radio Australia I could listen to. I would have had Voice of Korea, North Korea. I would have had so many stations. What probably made me sad this morning, waking up early, is sitting down and tuning around. And the only thing I could hear from Asia really well was the fire drake. on 11785, which was really strong, like S9 plus 20, with its usual very active and fiery Chinese traditional music. So I left it there because it was almost the only thing available. And 13 UT, I tried KBS World Radio 15575, the broadcast in North America. Didn't come in. And you know what? I even tried online SDRs. I tried the Lamont, Alberta SDR, the V6JY SDR, which is usually a really good one. Even there, KBS World Radio from South Korea was not coming in. And North Korea was not coming in very well on 11710 9435, which was the two frequencies. And it was kind of sad. I remember I was taking my coffee, doing a few things, thinking of my videos I would post today. And I felt sad thinking that the only thing that comes from far away that I could listen to was a Chinese jammer called the Fire Drake on 11785. Sad. 9580 would have given me Radio Australia, and there would have been other things to listen to usually, in many years ago. Oh man. Larry P, nice to have you here from Georgia. Jasmine says my sleep is all messed up now. Nope, Frank Ireland, I'm not a ham. Eventually, I need to. R. Walker getting Radio Thailand. Yeah, but getting Radio Thailand here is difficult. I had to use the Lamont Alberta SDR for that. So V3 KRP, nice to have you on board. Fast Eddie from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. Rufus Newt can always get 6070 CFRX at night, but mother station CFRB, News Talk 1010 comes in great. Arthur's out of Crafter's Kitchen, one of my local public radio FM station out of Boston, runs BBC World Service overnight. Yeah, I think they do also. I remember one. I'm going to try it tonight because I usually go to bed at like 1 a.m. But I think last time I heard them like at midnight. They start at midnight local, and they broadcast the BBC. James Farley, wouldn't it be cool if we could all learn CW here and a little at a time? So we'll have a letter every week, like Sesame Street, but for Morse code. Today is the letter A. Dita. Dita. Everybody's going to remember that. Remember when you were drunk and you were doing the A letter? Dita. Sorry. Jasmine, did you hear the ICQ podcast? They had a shorter listening blog guy on and gave HF Underground a shout out. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Shorter listening is Thomas Witherspoon. Absolutely. Lauren Don says, I have been using smaller corner stores for bottles of ale and IPA. I just go crazy because it's like I am tired of waiting in line to go to the grocery store. And you know what? A friend of mine was like, well, you go to that place for, buying stuff. It's a little more expensive. And I say, my time is worth something. If instead of waiting 45 minutes to get the basics, I just go in and out, it's worth that extra $1 because I didn't wait and waste my time. I have other things to do. I mean, I won't pay $1 million for milk, but I mean, it's not enough more expensive. And like I said, it kind of battles out because I bought a few things there that were actually less expensive than the grocery. And of course, I bought a few things that were more expensive. But when you pay at the end, you're like, well, it's the same price pretty much I would have paid at a grocery. So, yeah, who cares? Of course, the choice isn't, I'm not going to buy food there, but, Butterbean, nice to have you on board. Lost my tower and CB beams Monday to a tornado here in North Georgia. Oh, man, that is sad. You know what the important thing is? It's sad because I know it's a lot of work to put all of that back up. But at least, you know what? You are okay and safe. That is worth much more than an antenna tower going down. Okay? Chuck Yunkin, is your clock an atomic clock? And how come you ain't got the atomic signal up? It's not an atomic clock. I got it on my weather station, but not this one. This one is not an atomic clock. Rufus Newt Village, I am close to 1,100 population, no lineups ever, and beer store, LBO, and yeah, pretty good. WOHB 1390, here is a big city, so it's like there's lineups everywhere. Nice to have you here, my friend. When I went to the store to get a beer, there's a store that sells meat. It's a well-known place. There's like 20 people in line just to buy meat. I was like, yeah, no. You know what? Eric Cottrell, nice to have you on board. Thomas Kitts, nice to have you on board from up Michigan. Kevin Wood, ici Radio Dépanneur. Like that. All right, JDA Dakota just got finished from listening to 80 meters, joining you. Nice to have you on board, my friend. What's MUFON? MUFON on 3972.5. Simplio 6145 Radio Havana, Cuba, English. Yeah, but Cuba is never in the correct schedules because Cuba does not, never does actually submit their schedules to the HFCC and the ITU. So basically what happens is they are, and it's just like, they are popping up everywhere whenever they want, and who cares? Horizontal Crafter's Kitchen, a guy on YouTube that puts up a ton of videos. I was scared for a moment. I thought you were talking about me. There's a guy on YouTube putting tons of videos, of radio videos on YouTube. I actually got someone saying that I posted too many videos on YouTube. I was like, what the hell do you care? Go watch somebody else. So put a ton of videos on YouTube of the ICOM R71A that debunks popular myths on the radio, like the CPU battery and the power supply. So is it true? If the battery dies out, does the firmware go out? Because that's what I heard all the time. Horizontal Crafters, I know the R71A power supply is supposed to run on. That's like the Kenwood R5000. Anybody that owned a Kenwood R5000, who, raise your hands, who touched the case and said, this thing runs way too hot. It's not normal. And I owned one for, 20 years before Fast Load has it. And it ran, in the last few years, it ran 24 hours a day with the case hot, so hot that I could barely touch the cover. And it ran, and it just ran. But I still don't understand. I still don't understand why they make a radio that runs that hot. But, yeah. It's life, and companies do things sometimes that are stupid. Oh, man. Yeah, Sirius XM should have the CBDC feed, Bobby Burgess, pretty much. I'm pretty sure. Anyways, anybody can stream the CBC over the internet if they want to. You can still listen to Canadian Broadcasting Corporation over the internet. And what else do we have? Jasmine says we get almost zero news from Canada. We talked about it in the past. I know you guys have no idea what's happening here. Kevin Wood, Christian Science Monitor used to have a good news service on shortwave. Yeah, they're gone. They disappeared at one point. They had so many frequencies on shortwave at one point. Frank Carolyn would love to have a good condition zenith transoceanic. It's true, Eric. We never know what we'll hear on the radio. That's why radio is fascinating. If radio was, and if particularly if shortwave radio was static and always the same, I wouldn't have left shortwave long time ago. Oh, really, R. Walker? I need to check it out. So there's a lot of Latin American pirates apparently on HF Underground. I need to check that out. So our friend here in Brazil, Gustavo Pinto, there's apparently a lot of Latin American pirates you might hear. Go to HF Underground and check it out. Kind of interesting. Northern Dawn, I can receive Italy and Spain well overnight on medium wave. Cool. You guys in Europe are, I was listening to a Swedish SDR a few months ago, and I was listening to the medium wave band, and I was astonished at all the signals and the different languages. It's crazy. Kevin Wood, 12-volt vids from Fraser Valley is very good. Oh, okay. Kind of interesting. Need to check that out. What else do we have? What else? Let's go down. Let's try to go down and catch up. Ronald Klontz, nice to have you on board from Northeast Illinois. Yeah, there's the SATCOM pirates on the 200 megahertz range from South America. So, Mr. Simba, MLA 30 ordered from Amazon, sent back because of COVID-19. Very weird. That's weird. Joe Sombra News, nice to have you here from Brazil. Simplio, Radio Slovakia via WRMI. That probably ended a couple of minutes ago. The 07I Ombro, during previous solar peak, I operated a French station on 6 meters from Arizona. Got the QSL. Wow, this is cool. 6 meters. Eric Cottrell was surprised to receive when a medium wave station from Colombia on 770 kilohertz overpowered the New York City station a couple of years ago. Oh man, yeah, WABC on 770. Hey, I'm still surprised that I heard Radio Rebelde from Cuba on medium wave a few months ago. So, I'm still astonished using the passive AN200 loop. And the funniest part is that I had a better signal on my Toshiba analog that Fastload gave me than on my, I think it was a Texan radio that I had. And I was like, wow, it's better on the analog, the old analog than the newer Toshiba, actually. It's kind of interesting on that also, It's interesting to see the interaction and how some old receivers react better to certain circumstances and to certain setups than newer digital receivers. I mean, radio is radio, but what's interesting in there is that radio in general is depending on the time from a receiver, depending on when something was built. Even though radio is radio, the newer radios react differently than older radios sometimes to some of the technology we have. And when we try different things, one of the interesting aspects is I remember when I actually tuned some of my American 5 tube receivers. They don't like the AN200. They don't react to the AN200 like a modern radio does. You see that the principle is different. You see that the way that they are built doesn't act in the same way as more modern radios. So you see that there's an evolution and a change in the way that radios, the way they are built and the way that they react to the environment changes over years and time. The basic principle is the same. I mean, radio is radio, but the technologies used make them react differently to different technologies of the modern times also. Kevin Jane Apollo, nice to have you here. WS2H, Radio Romania in English, 7375, which should now be in French, actually, if I tune in. Yep, pretty good signal. Yep, pretty good signal from Radio Romania, 7375. Now they are in French. Kevin says, talking about how house cat rule the streets during their lockdown, does Mr. Paul dominate the Canadian courtyards? Pretty much. You know, there's like 3 cats here that are very dominant in the area. And right now what I see is that the 3 cats are, so including Paul, they go out and they roam the backyards and are kind of happy. What I don't like is because there were a few reports of, and let me just open a beer here. Also, beer number 2, Rickard's White. So what I don't like is that there were a few reports of cats being maybe a vector of possible contamination. So what happens is I'm just hope that the neighbors don't mind too much that my cat goes into their yards, especially like 3 houses, about 3 houses down. So it's a little family, and obviously they're all confined, so they're all like playing in the backyard all the time. The parents are there, the kids are there, and I know Paul the cat goes there all the time. So in the last few years, it's cool because I mean, the family is happy to see Paul, and the kids go and they pet Paul, and Paul is such a nice cat that he just sits down and is like, yeah, I got attention. But now with what's happening, I'm afraid that Paul goes there and that they're not happy because there could be a possible, and I find that sad because I mean, I totally understand, why you could be wondering about all this, but I mean, it's just, but I mean, yeah, I mean, come on, it's like cats rule the neighborhood anyways. Kevin Wood, Radio New Zealand, comes in well in some mornings. Jasmine, have you ever thought of putting your Wednesday or on Friday live show times in your YouTube about description? Oh yeah, I should check that. That is absolutely. Yeah, it's been like that. Actually, I haven't touched the about tab in a long time. Also, the thing that I should probably be doing is each channel you can have kind of a over kind of the description video explaining what the channel is all about that I have not filled up. Also, I should probably do that. I was watching a channel the other day, and I noticed that when I would go to that channel, there was that video always popping up and saying, well, this is the place where blah blah blah, and I shouldn't make something like that also. I know it would probably increase the views, that's for sure. I will I'm gonna check that in the next few days. But I haven't you know what, it's thanks for letting me know, because it's things that you forget about over time. And the about tab I don't think I've touched since the day that I had just created a channel. So yeah, there are definitely things I should post in there to kind of update the channel. Kevin Miles, nice to have you here. Can hear Radio New Zealand sometimes in the morning here as well. Griffiths Newt, I'm game. This week's letter is brought to you by Paul. Hey, Dida. beep, beep, deep dot. Briar Smoke. Let's have you here. My shortwave laissez-faire began in the early to mid 90s, sitting in my garage with the grunting yacht boy and a homebrewed wire antenna listening to Radio Canada International. There were a few stations. Well, there were, some stations around the world that were really loved over time. And what I realized is, so we had, HCJB was one of the stations that a lot of people love from Quito, Ecuador. I was one of them. Radio Netherlands was a big gun broadcaster that everybody loved. I enjoyed listening to the BBC World Service when they had the North American service. Remember their night frequency from Antigua, I think it was from 5975, always amazing signal. But it's interesting because when you live in your own country of a broadcaster, you don't necessarily realize how people from other countries enjoyed the broadcast of your broadcaster. And I hear so many people saying, you know what, I miss Radio Canada International. And you're like, wow, people around the world really enjoyed listening to Radio Canada International. And it's kind of nice to hear that, pretty cool. Northern Dawn's listening to Algeria on 531 kilohertz at the moment. Wow. BNGR 7769. Do you have any Radio Shack scanners? Yeah, I've got a Pro 2006 here. I've got a Pro 92 here. I got a Pro 43 over there. And I had so many others over time. I had a Pro 2022. I had a Pro, what were the Pro ones that I got? Pro 26, which was the crappiest portable. There was the first one that went up to 1.3 gigahertz, and it was the crappiest scanner Radio Shack ever put out on as a portable. I had a Pro one. I don't remember the Pro 51. I think it was. The Pro 26 was the one that went to 1,300 megahertz. And when I sold it because I got the trunk tracker Radio Shack here, which was a lot better performance. Remember, you do things sometimes. So one guy called me up. I put it on the classified ads. And I was, it was very, very, very obvious. I sold it because it was crappy and I didn't like it. And when the guy came, and I sold it for a pretty good price, like 200 and like something like 275. I had paid like 350. I sold it like 275. So the loss wasn't that big. And I remember the guy looked at me and said, why are you selling it? And the only thing I said was, well, I bought that one, so I don't need it anymore. In reality, I was selling it because it was the crappiest thing in the world. It was overloading on every signal. It was just crappy. That's why, guys, you got to be careful and know what you're doing when you buy a radio that's used. Man. Tyler Schmidt found a number station today. Spanish female voice kind of creeped me out. Yeah, HM01 out of Cuba. That's the popular one we hear all the time. Eric Cottrell did his weekly expedition for food today. But it's getting a little better. I noticed that the when I went to the grocery on Monday, and I noticed that there was more stuff in the aisles. People are kind of relaxing now. Lots of toilet paper. I could have bought some. RJ Dakota, Mutual UFO Network. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, the national organization. The small net usually discusses UFO phenomenon and other related topics. You know what that reminds me? And by the way, guys, I'm 15 minutes behind. That reminds me of when I was early adult. I went up north. So my dad had a a shack up north, and it's a very isolated shack. I was in front of a lake, and the nearest neighbor was like 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers away. And of course, it's the kind of place when you're alone, you can easily get creeped out by whatever is happening. So, you gotta have control of yourself because, remember one night I was listening, I had my radio and there was a fire on. I had done a little fire outdoors and cooking marshmallows. It was like, 11 p.m. at night. And I was looking at the sky and I was like, I was okay, but I was all alone. And I think it was Coast to Coast AM that I kind of went into a broadcast on AM on my little receiver that I had. And they were talking about UFOs. And there was a guy there that called in and talked about how he was he lived in a rural area in the middle of the forest almost, and where he had some UFOs and stuff. And he was talking about it. And, so I was in front of my fire at the shack there, and I was like, I don't know, I was maybe 18, 19. After about half an hour of listening, I started like looking around. I was like, yeah, okay, everything looks weird. I was feeling, suddenly I was kind of feeling overwhelmed by my own my brain basically taking over and saying, you know what, you're in the middle of nowhere, something can happen here. And I remember like quickly putting out the fire and going inside the shack and locking it down, because I started to kind of feel really, really bad and not being very brave outside alone. And I'm thinking of this today. I'm like, man, you know what? That place in the middle of nowhere was probably the safest place in the world. But when your brain starts to get over, you just can't get back. It's like, okay, it happened twice at that place. One was that. One, I went up there with a friend of mine, and he decides to go and do some jogging at when the sun, like, I don't know, was maybe early evening, and we were in July, so the sun sets at like 9 p.m. It was like 7 p.m. when we left. So it was like, he's gonna go this jogging and come back later. It's okay. But anybody that lives in a rural area, or went camping, or went to any place there's a lot of forest, that time when the sun goes down and it starts to go behind the trees, and you have these, it starts to feel kind of creepy somehow. There's some weird, it feels weird when that happens, You don't feel like as secure as like 2 p.m. in the afternoon when the sun rises straight up, And I was alone. I was listening to Shortwave, I remember, and I had a fire going and everything. And it started to get a little windy. And when you're alone, and I mean, that place had no noise. If you turned off the radio, all you would hear is yourself breathing and whatever is happening around you. And now it's starting to get windy. So you could hear noises everywhere, trees, like leaves of trees falling down. And of course, it was a very, very isolated area. So there were probably a lot of little creatures going around, not too far around. I remember being creeped out and going inside. But I go inside, and we didn't have electricity. It was a I don't know if you say it in English. So anyways, it's that thing that you put gas inside and you pump it, and then you turn it on with a match. You put a match, and you hear the kind of the gas that goes inside. And man, I don't know what's in English, the name of that thing. In French, it's called a fanal, but in English, I don't remember. So anyways, I go inside, I pump I need to fill it up. There's no more gas inside. And the gas is outside, like at the shed, which is like, up the little hill. And you're like, really? I got to go outside and get the gas. Oh, shit. Probably. But man, I was a scaredy cat. You guys are probably laughing your head off now. Oh, man. Steve, probably talking about the R71. Remove the power supply head in a separate box. What else do we have? Let's, I'm going to try to reach the bottom now because I need to, I'm very, very far away. What else do we have? Ultrasonic Crafter's Kitchen. Power supply is hot because of the built-in computer R71A is half computer, half radio. Yeah, I know 3916 RJ Dakota 3916 is there's a trivia in it. James Farley, for a long time I had a fan on my R5000 to keep it cool down. Rifleman 336 cracked open a Blue Moon Mango Wheat Hail. Huh, interesting. That must be good. Yeah, around something like 240 to 290 megahertz range, somewhere around that. Yeah. Gustavo Pinto hates lines too. Simply plug in the RTL SDR into my Android tablet, load up Avara SDSB SDR Touch, and get tablet. Yeah, well, any Android device, even my phone. If I plug in the RTL SDR dongle in here, for sure. Let's check it out here. Let's go to 7200 and check out the hams. So yeah, oh man, there's a lot of a lot of stuff there. 7160 just below. 7160, 7190 ish, and 7230. There's a lot of stuff happening. Mr. Simba, is that radio below your clock a GRE scanner? It's a Realistic Pro 2006. I know that GRE made a lot of the Radio Shack scanners and Realistic scanners. So I don't know if it was made by GRE on this one, but it's possible because a lot of them were made by GRE. Absolutely. William, interesting base scanner to clock sitting on. Yeah, the Pro 2006. That's one of the most. That one was one of the most popular tabletop Radio Shack scanners ever sold. The Pro 2000, that series, Pro 2004, 5, and 6, are known to be some of the best scanners that they actually made. Your on the air sign is askew. Yeah, it is a little bit. Need to. Oh, I know why. Because I had that thing running and it's not. So here, let's put a little straighter here. Here you go. That's straight. That is better. Ron Deming got a Pro 2022. Been a great performer over the years. A lot for a radio that's not worth it that price. Keegan, Northwest Arkansas, X80Xer. Nice to have you here, my friend. Bluster Troy. What is the best shortwave radio on the market? Where would you suggest I buy one? Depends what you want and how much money you have to spend. There's a lot of nice little radios out there, but I still think that for price versus performance, the XH Data D808 is the best out there. Texan receivers are great. If you don't want to have that chuffing or that muting when tuning, get yourself a Texan PL 660. Once again, great radio for the price. And it's a little more expensive, but I gotta give a little something to the C Crane CC Skywave SSB, which is a nice portable radio, but it's a little more expensive. Jasmine saw a standalone SDR with a little touchscreen and knob on the Shortwave listening blog from a Fedry 340. Yeah, it's the new one. It's a new one. And I saw a review of it, actually. Oh, N9WD EWO, I think is the call sign. Dave receiver page. He's got a full review of it. He seems to like it. I have to check that out. Jasmine, 90% of UFO reports are misidentification. Well, actually, you know what? UFO, that's the thing, because we got to be careful with what it is. Unidentified flying object. It says what it is. In our head, a UFO equals alien ship for a lot of people. It's actually just, we don't know what it is, but there's a lot of unknown stuff for sure. Oh man. RJ Dakota C2CM used to be much better show than it is now. Don't know, to get too involved. Some of the topics make you paranoid. Okay. What else do we have? Dropped to 144, really. Let me just check it out here. Do I have anything special? I don't have. The only the indication here is everything is all right. But everybody seems to be buffering right now. So, from what I see here, is my upload. My upload is good. Nothing is going bad. So I don't know what's happening. Something is happening for sure. Kind of lantern. A naphtha fueled lantern. Yeah, a kerosene lantern. Thank you. A Coleman lantern. Whatever you want to call it. It was that. Oh, man. So everybody's buffering. No, I haven't checked the video beacon of hate. We'll check it out, William Moser. Ray Carlisi, speaking of listening to Radio Australia in the morning, I have a 30th anniversary QSL verifying my reception report. Wow. Guess the year, 30th anniversary. Wow. That must be, oh man, what year could that be? Okay. Vicky Delmage, and there is Jill, alone in the forest by fire, wind blowing in the trees, crackling sounds around him, and then all in their radio interval signal. Oh man. That would be, I mean, come on. All in their radio interval signal, how creepy that is. It's really, really creepy. Is it getting better for the stream? Because here my upload says that it's green. So seems to be okay. That's weird. Something is happening. So I don't know. Something happened at some point, I guess. Sorry, I have no control over the bits and bytes and the zeros and ones going out. Hopefully it's better now. Rural melancholy. Gustavo Pinto. Oh man. My messenger. What's on Messenger? Yeah. But here everything stayed green, so I don't know. On my upload, it said okay. Too much bits sending out to the world. Simply, YouTube service probably overloaded. The whole pandemic needs, yeah. Something's happening. James Farley, Pirate 4175 Upper Sideman. Let's check it out. And yes, there is. And yes, there is. With music. What a surprise. So, yep. Very wide. So, it's a very wide upper sideband signal. So, that for sure is Mixed Radio International. Oh, man. Alex Jones needs his own interval signal. But I like that, Miki Dalmich. If I would have heard all India radio's interval signal at the same time, forget it. I had peed in my pants. It sounds so weird. So now you guys know I'm a scaredy cat. Well, I used to be. Maybe, I don't know today. I'd have to test it. I'd have to test that again today, alone in the forest with a fire, and see how it goes. So I'm going to change, actually, the antenna here. Oh, yeah, that is much stronger now. So 4175. There's been a cool AM radio being relayed by Mixed Radio International on 4175. Last night was very strong. So hey, I'm back in the bottom of the chat now. Yeah, it is very exotic and very very particular, that interval signal from All India Radio. Wow, November of '69, Ray Carlisi. Man, I was just a few months old. I was born in March of '69. Crazy, eh? That sometimes makes me a little crazy. Kind of, it's weird thinking that somebody lived before we actually did live, or somebody was alive before we were born. It's kind of weird when you think about it. So, there is absolutely a lot of unexplained and misunderstood phenomena. That's for sure. And I mean, I remember when we talk about UFOs, because I did a lot of astronomy. So, when you do a lot of astronomy, the people that come to you know that you've been watching the sky all the time. And I mean, I've been up north at that freaky place that I was scared with a telescope so many nights. And one of the things that people ask you regularly is, "Oh, have you ever seen UFOs?" And that's why I say UFOs. And yeah, I'm kicking the camera, guys. Sorry. I'm just going to try to position myself a little different. Here we go. Now I'm going to stop kicking the camera. And what happens is that people put a tag on UFOs and aliens and extraterrestrial and flying saucers all in the same bag. But people ask you, because I mean, it's one of those mysterious things of the world of, you've been watching the skies all the time, and watching a lot of the skies in the middle of nowhere. Have you seen UFOs? And I always tell them, I've seen weird stuff. Yes, absolutely. I've seen weird stuff that is difficult to explain. But, I mean, I'm not the guy that's jumping to a conclusion that there were aliens. I'm more of, that was a weird phenomenon, and I would like to know what it is. But I don't, I'm one of those that don't think aliens are visiting us, because the distance in the universe is so huge that it's, I do believe there's life somewhere else. I believe there's intelligent life in our universe outside of this planet. But the distance is so huge, that's why we don't see each other, and we don't know that we exist, because it's just the distances are too big. And that's why I don't think any are visiting, because the number one problem with that is the distance. But then again, there's, everybody has his beliefs and all of that. And, but, I've seen some weird stuff. But honestly, if for me, it's, well, that was weird, but it probably has an explanation. And there's so many satellites and so many things that we put in space now that, there easily could be something you could watch that looks strange, but as an explanation somewhere, Plus, there's a lot of phenomena on this planet that are weird. I talked about a few that I've seen in the past, including going with my brother into that famous place up north, the shack. There was a swamp not far away from where we were. And we had this crazy idea once, because we were drunk anyways. Me and my brother, we were drunk, and we got this idea of like at 2 a.m, let's go take a walk. And we went to the swamp area. And in the swamp area, there was luminescent greenish stuff that were kind of ghostly looking things, And of course, my knowledge of the time, I knew that there were gases created there with the decomposition of all of it that would create, all sorts of these phenomena. But I mean, people that don't have any scientific knowledge or anything, or didn't know anything about it, would look at that and find it creepy. And what the hell's that? I, on the other hand, was like, I kind of understood it and found it kind of beautiful. It was the first time I'd seen that. It was like, oh, this is so cool, But it's one of the things that they ask you all the time. I mean, I don't know how many times over the years, regular folks that I would bring in to watch and show stuff with the telescope would ask me, have you ever seen UFOs and aliens? And, people are curious. They want to know. And I can tell you, I've seen a few weird things. And it's pretty quiet, And I mean, where I was there, that would have been the perfect place to, do X-Files episodes of whatever is happening. It would have been the perfect place where I could have been kidnapped by aliens. It was always perfect for that and never happened. Or maybe it did happen, and I don't know. But that's another story. Sergio Cordero. Hello, my friend. Nice to have you here. I find it very interesting how you have taken advantage of the internet to promote, teach about radio, a tool that many would say is becoming obsolete. Well, shortwave is not obsolete. And this is a modern technology to promote a technology that for me is still something important and something that can change the world. And, if shortwave was obsolete, there'd be no broadcasts. Look at how many broadcasts in Asia. Why do the Chinese have their fire drakes? And why do the U.S. fund stations like Radio Free Asia and Voice of America to still continue to broadcast to some areas of the world? That's where you understand that shortwave is still a very important part of where people can get some knowledge, especially people that are in countries or areas around the world where having a reliable source of news is difficult. Jasmine, oh yeah, that one is creepy. The Bangkok meteorological stuff, yeah, that is very spooky. Absolutely, I've heard it a few times. Very scoopy. I said scoopy. Very spooky. Scoopy. Do you have a scoopy interval signal? What's a scoopy interval signal? Yarabamba. I read that due to the pandemic, radio sales, yeah, absolutely, you're on the rise. People are buying radios. They know that you can actually get something, Matt, nice to have you here from Colorado, MDK2. Love that station. Weird thing to say about a vomit. Vintage AZ Audio. Nice to have you on board. Says shortwave signals seem to be improving. Nice. Cool. Jasmine says, I think most of us involved in astronomy have seen weird stuff, but the difference is usually we know what it is, what we're seeing. And if we don't know what it is, we have a kind of, it could be this or that, even without really knowing about it. But we don't jump to the conclusion that this is, an alien civilization saying hi on my telescope, Because, watching the sky for hours at a time and for many days, you will see weird stuff, But I think if you're involved in astronomy, you have a scientific knowledge that helps you kind of try to find, your mind is in a science mode. It's trying to find what that could be that I just saw that I never seen before, Vintage AZ Audio. So agreed. It can travel the universe, but yet crash in Roswell. I think everybody is entitled to their own knowledge, and you can't. Nobody can say 100% of what we see or know is what is the world. There's things we don't understand. There will always be, and I think there's a lot of stuff that we still don't understand about our own planet. There's a lot of it, and that brings that side of mysterious sightings and mysteriousness of whatever is happening. It's just it's the way it is. William Helms, my brother and hi at Langley Air Force Base confirmed a sighting once. They saw it too, but we never found from them about what it was. There's sightings of a lot of things. There are sightings of a lot of things. That, I remember telling someone that was asking me questions about that. I remember once that person said, well, so you don't believe in the alien reports? And I said, well, okay, let's be fair. They are not alien reports. They are UFO reportings. The word, if you look at the words, it tells everything. Unidentified flying object. And I told that person, I said, not everybody's lying. There are some, nut jobs that will call in reports of, they saw Venus that's super bright. And that must be a UFO watching me in my window. There are that kind of nut jobs out there. But, when she said, well, so all those reportings are fake. And I said, no, they're not. I'm sure a lot of those reports are reports from people that saw something that was Cool AM radio, by the way. Cool AM radio, 4175 upper sideband, pirate station. But, a lot of people saw something. They're not crazy. They're not stupid. They're not fake. They did report an actual sighting of something they don't understand. And it's probably a big chunk of the reporting is like that. It's not a fake reporting. It's a reporting of something they just don't understand and don't know what it is. We are, so, when I talk like about this, we have a knowledge of this. Keep in mind that, when we say not a lot of people have a knowledge of what shortwave radio is all about, well, it's the same for astronomy. Not a lot of people have a knowledge of it, of the sky above us. Right now we're at like the maximum of the planet Venus. If you have a clear sky in the west northwest, Venus is at close to its brightness, the maximum brightness. It's extremely bright. I've seen it in the past few days, in the past few weeks. And it's so bright that people can't understand what that could be in the sky. And it's yet a planet. It's Venus. Venus is the third brightest object in the sky after the moon and the sun. But people don't have a knowledge of their own sky and the planets and the stuff around them. So they see that bright, and I remember my brother in the 80s, my brother coming in and said, "Come and look outside, something weird." And I go outside, and the street was aligned with a very bright object at the end of the street. And I looked at it and I said, "Oh yeah, that's Venus." And my brother looked at me and said, "That's Venus?" I said, "Yeah, it's setting. That's why it's so low. But that's Venus." He says, "It can be. It's so bright." I said, "Trust me, that's Venus. It's very bright. Venus is very bright when it's bright." And you look at that and you're like, imagine all the people that look at that and say, "Oh wow." I remember being at a concert that was outdoor in the summertime many years ago, and Venus was up, and there's two people next to me, and they look up and say, "Oh, look at that! Look at the plane." But they look, and 5 minutes later, it's still there. It's like, wow, that plane is not moving very fast. And I remember looking at them, and said, "That's not a plane. That's planet Venus." And they looked at me like I was a weirdo. That could not be a planet. And that's where the knowledge is. It's very difficult. Some people have very little knowledge of the world around them on specific, and we all do. I mean, if you guys show me a car and tell me fix that car that's broken down, I have no clue of what to do. Like if you bring me a computer and you tell me fix the computer, I have a good idea what to do. The knowledge we have is very concentrated on certain aspects of our lives and technology and things that we learned. But the majority of people have very little knowledge of a lot of that around us. And so it's easy for people to just go and start thinking, "Oh well, look at that, that must be an alien or a UFO or it's like." How many sightings of UFOs were reported, and it was planet Venus? Imagine planet Venus and a very warm night where there's a lot of humidity and instability in the atmosphere, and it's super low, so it changes color all the time because of the distortion of the atmosphere. How many people reported that as there was a object, very bright, changing color, and I could see it from my window, and people could be convinced that that must have been a flying saucer, an extraterrestrial of some kind. It was just a planet Venus, very low, very bright, distorted by the atmosphere itself, and it just looked weird. But people don't know. Jeff Barrett, nice to have you here. Jasmine, anyone who thinks shortwave broadcasting is dead only needs... I need to read that. Only needs to travel to Asia or the west coast of North America to turn their receiver on in the early morning. There was a guy, it's interesting because it's what's very difficult on shortwave to help people. There was a guy that posted a message in the Facebook group, and his message was that he was underwhelmed with what he was listening to, and he lived in Northern Europe, and he said he didn't hear a lot. It's difficult to help someone from afar. I mean, when you know radio, you kind of have a feel. I can look at my waterfall here. I can listen to my portables. I have an understanding and a knowledge of the noise and the things that can actually make radio reception different all around. And the noise around us. I mean, we have tremendous amounts of noise from the electronic devices. If you live in an apartment building, you have your neighbors' electronic devices creating noise on your radios, and that you have no control. There's the utility. You could have electricity, you could have internet access that is noisy around you for some reason by the companies that actually deliver that. So it's difficult because you're not where that person is. That person will post, well, I don't hear a lot of stuff. It's like somebody in North America that says, I only hear religious broadcasts. Yeah, I'd like to be there and see how much noise do you have, first of all, around you. What are the times you're listening? Do you turn on, and that's one of the things that I often want to do is say, do you just turn on the radio for 10 minutes, hear 4 stations, and say, well, there's nothing there, and just shut it down? You'll never hear anything else if you just do that. And there's that knowledge. Where do you listen to? What are the frequency ranges you're tuning around? It's a complex thing. So when somebody comes in to the Facebook group or here and says, I don't hear anything. I mean, there are places around the planet we hear less than others, but there are things to listen to. And if you look at my channel, I hear stuff. But I have to put myself in the shoes and the mold of a person that has a portable radio with telescopic, nothing more. And what can you hear from your own area? I gotta say, if I remove my outdoor antennas and I just listen in with my portable, yeah, it kind of limits a little more what I can listen to and what I hear. So, it's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing to help someone that's not listening, and that's not listening. That's not hearing anything. It's what are you doing? How are you doing it? And how are you set up? And what's the noise around you? And so many questions come up to mind, How many people left the hobby? Or how many people bought a radio? They saw this channel and left after just a month or two because, well, there's nothing to listen to. Yeah, that's why I post videos of what I hear, because I want to show everybody, well, there's stuff. There's a pirate right now, 4175. It's difficult to help somebody because you don't see the environment. You don't see how he tunes around, what he has of equipment. Is he tuning around just always in the same place? I always say, everybody, if I would tune around shortwave in my living room, I'd hear nothing. That's why I always say, try to go to a park, try to go further away from houses. Some have done it and come back to me and said, you know what? I went to, there's a little wooded area not far from where I live, or there's a park, and I went there, and you know what? I was surprised. You're right. I hear so much more. Yeah, there's too much noise around you. That's such a big problem. Kamek Z 1976. Nice to have you here. Scoopy, the litter boxes. Oh, that'd be nice. I'm gonna start a litter box service. Welcome to Scoopy. Scoopy will help you scoop. Jeff Barrett is 9330 back up, full superpower. I was hearing them this morning, so they seem to be back up. If they're bleeding into 10 meters, maybe they're overloading your RSP1A. Lower the RF gain a little bit, or the low frequency, tune it away, because it shouldn't show up in 10 meters. Larry Cordy, nice to have you here from New York. Keegan has first FME skip of 2020, April 10th. Florida. Oh, wow. Veracruz, Mexico. Oh, this is cool. This is cool. Wow. On the 14th, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina. Wow. Definitely some sporadic e-skip there. Jasmine says the whole UFO thing is a cottage industry in the U.S. MUFON makes big money off. Of course. You know, there's people that are entertaining that knowledge, that thinking that maybe aliens are coming here for that reason, for sure. Like every type of, you know. Vintage AZ Audio 9330 is booming 20 plus Arizona. They won't expand their content. It's flat earth people stuff, which for me is a waste of 500 kilowatts of power. And that's it. What a waste. Jeff Barrett. Sorry. Jeff Barrett has Cool AM Radio 4174 +7 +8 in Cincinnati. RJ Dakota. Actually, I'm sorry for opening. Don't be sorry. It's okay. You know, it's there's so much stuff. Mongoose. Nice to have you here. Wow, Keegan. April 15th, Honduras. Wow. That's so cool. ETI TV. Nice to have you on board. Very true. You nailed it on UFOs. Funny, because I like your avatar of a green alien. Oh, man. I thought you were gonna rant at me saying, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Aliens are here next to us all the time. Oh, man. B3KRP. Being an amateur astronomer, I've yet to see something I couldn't identify when they land on the White House lawn. I will believe like Agent Mulder. Oh, man, that reminds me of Mars Attack, which I love as a movie. It's just so funny. Jasmine, very slow. Venus slow on the horizon in the summer can look super weird to people who aren't very sky aware, especially when you look at it through binoculars. Yep. Matt says, yep, people don't even often know that Venus is usually in some kind of crescent phase when it's high in the skies. Yep. Oh, yeah, Jupiter's bright also. Jupiter can become bright. But Venus is, and it is right now in that phase. It's just so amazing. So amazing. You know, there are some interesting aspects of life in the universe. I mean, it's what the Fermi. Oh man, what is it? The I'm trying to remember the word. The Fermi. Anyways, it's like there are some really good questions out there that are asked about alien life and why we haven't seen anything about that, or I mean, why we haven't received any signals from alien civilizations. And there are some good questions out there. I honestly, when you look at all the Fermi paradox, I think that's the way it is. Fermi paradox. There's some good questions asked in there. There's some interesting things that makes you really, really kind of think and wonder. What I always say to everybody is, you know what? I think life is abundant in the universe, honestly. Intelligent life is less. So, just look here. Remove the last million years. Let's remove just that chunk of our Earth where human beings exist. The big majority of this time on this planet were actually dinosaurs, and I mean dinosaurs ruled the Earth for a way much longer period of time than we are here. These things couldn't, broadcast a signal. They weren't there. They didn't have what it took to go there. But it tells you one thing: life was abundant for a very long time here. It had different forms. So put that perspective into the universe. There's probably life everywhere. But in insects and viruses, and there's a COVID-19 on some other planet equivalent, probably. There's small creatures, or maybe even dinosaur-like creatures, but that never attain or never reach the level needed to master the technology around it, to understand its own the way that the world works and the universe works, and master enough of it to create radio signals. Imagine how far and how long. I mean, the Earth has been here for 4.5 billion years. We've been sending out radio signals for the last 100. Imagine how tiny that is. 4.5 billion years of this planet for 100 years of radio. It ain't a lot. So put that everywhere around the world and the universe. And plus, we got to think of so many things. We are lucky to have an environment that wasn't too harsh, although the Earth had some massive destruction. Dinosaurs disappeared. How many times life had to restart almost at zero? Some other places in the universe are even more difficult than here for that type of life to happen. And but I think life in the universe is probably super abundant. I'm sure there's tons and tons of plants and creatures of all kinds everywhere in the universe. The intelligent life is a more specialized and very unique part of it. I think it probably exists also around the universe, especially when you look at how big it is. But because it's more difficult to create intelligent life that does things, I think what happens is we are really far apart. We're unable to communicate with each other because we're just too far from each other. It's an impossible task. Jasmine says it would be nice if people were curious enough to learn about what's really in the night sky. It's fascinating. Astronomy is something everyone can do. That reminds me when I was with my telescope when I was young. My neighbors, my next door neighbors, were curious because no one had a telescope. No one really watched the sky. No one really, there were stars in the sky. For the most part, and most people around you, they look at the sky and there's like little points of light. None or very little of everybody you meet will be able to identify something. Some will see the Big Dipper, some will see specific things, but in general, most people look up and like, yeah, little dots, other stars. But not that many people know enough to be aware that, yeah, you can see planets, you can see Mars, you can see Jupiter, you can see Saturn, you can see Venus, Mercury, if you really, really know where to look at and at a good time. But it's kind of it's a tough one. We gotta. That's the thing, is the knowledge of all of this comes from a fact that we have to understand that the knowledge of shortwave. How many people around you know shortwave? I'm sure a lot of you will tell me, well, I don't know of anybody, or I know only one person that knows what shortwave is all about, or what amateur radio is all about. Well, that is also true for space and astronomy and all of that. The average population's knowledge of everything scientific of any kind is extremely low. And that's why we have a lot of fighting and of working hard to have people believe in some scientific facts that they don't believe, and you got to tell them, it's like, I mean, we've known this for such a long time. This is what is happening, and a lot of people, and unfortunately, one of the biggest problems, what we talked earlier, those that use the misinformation to try to lure you into their own, because they want to make money, so they're going to lure you into that. Oh, well, there are aliens here, and they came a few years back, and this is the proof, and they'll have that picture of this blob that apparently appeared in the sky at some point, and they want to make money out of it, and will kind of change and kind of destroy a bit of our work in trying to say, no, that's not true. I still remember, I was maybe 16, 17 at the time. I showed Mars to a neighbor, and they were really nice people. Very zero knowledge of the world around them. Zero knowledge. Kind of a family that is down to earth into their little problems, the little things, and the little stuff that they do. But really nice people. But zero science. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, everything that was science is like a 1. They were clueless of everything. And I remember the lady who was there with her husband, and I showed Mars, and that night was probably the best night ever I've ever seen Mars. You could see features enough that I remember having a Mars map from Sky and Telescope magazine. I was actually able, from what I would see, pin down, this is the region we're watching right now. I could actually identify, this is where we're looking at. This is that part of Mars we're looking at on the map. It was easy to make out. And she came up to me and she said, I heard that apparently there's some people on the moon. And when you watch the moon, do you see these people? And she was dead serious. I mean, at first I almost laughed, but it was so serious in the way that she told me. that I kind of understood. No, you can't laugh. She's dead serious. Somebody, I don't know what, told her that probably that was the case. And I told her, I said, well, the moon doesn't have life because the moon doesn't have an atmosphere. And, I went on. And she was kind of listening and interested in it. And you know what? She came back to me at the end when we left. And first she wanted to thank me because she said it was so cool to see Mars and all of that. But she said, no, I hope you don't think that I'm stupid. And I said, you're not at all. Not at all. It's not being stupid. You were, it's like she was intelligent enough to actually ask questions and question and ask somebody that she thought knew more than her about something. But she was really, at the end, she was kind of shy. She was like, wow, you must think I'm stupid. I'm like, no. Oh man, I would have felt so bad if I would have laughed at that moment. But somehow something inside me said, no, don't laugh. This is serious. She really thinks there's beings or some living creatures on the moon. So we got to be careful with all of that also, not to offend anybody, But it was interesting. And that's where you see different people have different knowledge and I mean they think of the world around them in a very specific way that is very different from your own knowledge of all of this, Keegan says earlier this evening received a Mississippi station. Wow. William Helms thought I saw something on the beach once, but it was the angle of sunset on the water and humidity in the air. It was like a mirror. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of mirage. It's like on being on the road in a very warm summer day. You're in the car on the road and you look far and the road kind of melts into some weird looking watery thing. It's so weird. It's all distorted. It's really weird. RJ Dakota, can't hear shortwave in my house because of so much RF interference from refrigerator and computer, washing machine, and others. I go outside to listen. MUFON is a non-profit organization. Yeah, but I think it's all in the way that it's done. That's, you got to be careful. RJ Dakota, 4885. Wonderful late in the evening. Yeah, that's Brazil. Rob, yeah, Fermi paradox. RJ Dakota, Venus and Mars are commonly confused for other stars and objects. Especially Mars also, that is kind of orange in color. It's kind of nice. Dan V, some people don't believe the space station can be going. I remember being at a party, Dan V, and we're having a beer, and I see the International Space Station cross the sky, and I see someone saying, oh, look at that. And everybody's like, oh, that's a plane. And I'm like, no, that's the International Space Station. And then somebody looks at me and says, how do you know? I just know. That's the International Space Station. And it's like, well, we can't see that here. Yes, we can. It's a bright object in the sky. I took out my phone and I had an app, Heavens Above, and I said, look, it's visible. Look, my app is telling me it's visible where it is in the sky, which is that. And even with the app and everything, people were still skeptical. It was like, no, that can't be. He's saying whatever. He's like, he's talking trash. I don't know. Oh man. ETI TV standards set up at the signals have to repeat. You have to be kidding. I mean, if we look at here, like I was saying earlier, 100 years. So that means we have been sending out some radio frequency hash in a VHF range and UHF range for the past 100 years now. So that means the closest in our universe that somebody could maybe notice something is now 100 light years. Now that is still a lot of stars and probably a lot of planets, but yeah, the SETI is actually shut down. It shut down last week, a couple of weeks ago now. Apparently, they done whatever they had to do, and that's it. Decay 2, Matt says, it took me a while to be able to recognize most constellations, but once you see them, you can't unsee them. Yeah, that's exactly it. Especially in a very dark sky. I remember as a Montreal city guy, I could see the brightest ones, the Big Dipper and stuff like that, or Orion in the wintertime. And I remember having a really, really rough time identifying them once in a real dark sky with all the stars around. Mickey Dalmage, when people ask me if there is intelligent life out there, why have they not contacted us? My answer is that it's because they are intelligent and they know, leave us. Yeah, they come by and they say, oh, have you seen these guys? These guys are weird. Let's just ignore them. Actually, it's us. They're all talking in the universe, but they're all like, don't talk to these guys in that quadrant because they are nut jobs. Oh, man. I remember having a lot of fun when I installed that SETI at home. You guys remember? And it ran a long time, but at first it was SETI at home. I remember I had a Pentium 166. And I set up SETI at home, and I was so proud to leave my computer on to analyze all of those signals that they received, and wondering if one day we could find some life in the universe. Matt says, all jokes aside, how much intelligent life can even contact other planets? We can't do it yet. Perhaps I should say other interstellar species. Pretty easy. In the past 100 years, after millions of years of human existence, I shall point it out. And, if we need to live a long time, I mean, I'm pretty sure there must be some species out there that lived for millions of years of intelligence and science gathering and all of that. But, what's the limit? I mean, there are things in science that are weird and we don't understand. Once again, our own knowledge of the universe and science is fairly new. We know nothing. I'm not even sure we know 1% of everything there is to know in the universe and science. We're barely getting there. I mean, somebody somewhere with knowledge that reaches a high level, maybe there are shortcuts. When they talk about wormholes and stuff like that, I totally agree. Maybe somewhere, somehow, there's a way to do a shortcut between that part of the universe and that part of the universe and be there in like 2 minutes rather than be there in 300 million years. It's possible. I have no idea. It might be possible. We don't know. And there's so much out there that is to know anyways. Matt says that's it. There's probably a lot of other intelligent life, and they too haven't developed the technology either. While others probably have and died out, that's possible. Sheldon Harvey, nice to have you here. Welcome aboard to the UFO of the night shortwave listening. So let's try to listen to space signals off of this. Or maybe we could, actually. I have my VHF antenna up there. I could actually tune some VHF signal from a satellite or something. Let's check Evans Above, just out of curiosity here. Evans Above. Radio satellites, what's coming up? Nothing. Oh, AO92, but it's like in half an hour from now. AO92 has a really nice pass. This is an FM repeater in the sky. You guys want to have this continuing up to AO92 FM tuning of the satellite in space? How about it, guys? It's 30 minutes from now. I need to open another beer if we do this. But if you guys want to check it out, it's Amateur Oscar 92. It's on 145.880. And it's probably going to cross the North America. So for those of you that are capable of VHF 2-meter listening, 145.880. And it's supposed to be at its maximum at 0251 UT here in Montreal. So you guys want me to stay until we can actually tune that signal at in half an hour? Raise your hands. That's for sure. VE3KRP, you're totally right on that. We don't know how they can communicate with each other. That's for sure. The Deep Space Network, Northern Dawn for Voyager spacecraft is amazing. The Voyager spacecraft, where they are, sends out about 5 watts of power. It's like a CB. And it's very, of course, it's very focused on the Earth with the dish antenna. But they have to use enormous computing power to remove all the noise and be able to get that signal when it reports every day because it's so weak. What else do we have? Matt says, I like it in Futurama when Omicron Persei 8 beings, Lur and his wife, were watching 20th Century Earth TV. Yeah, they want to invade because TV isn't working anymore. And they have to fake they're mad because there's a sitcom that ends and they have to fake an ending to the sitcom to make them happy. That is pretty good. I like Futurama. It's amazingly good. Dirty Diaper 21 from South Carolina. Stay safe, my friend. Stay safe. You too, my friend. Glenn Zeckman from Tennessee. Nice to have you here. What else do we have? A Mirage. Yeah, William Helms. There's Ali Crafter's Kitchen, Liberty Net on 39.95 lower sideband, talking about Wuhan lab theory. Oh, please. So many things in life. Part of it is why it's all beautiful also. RJ Dakota, a lot of people actually think that we have still nevertheless been outside our atmosphere. Yeah. There's the guys that think that we never went to the moon. Actually, it's the 50th anniversary of Apollo 13. That is a successful mission, even though it almost ended in catastrophe. Jasmine, while we're only broadcasting radio for 100 years, artificial light has been in use. Yeah, but, I think for the sake of how powerful transmissions. But you know what? There's I saw a interesting report a few, maybe a year ago. They were talking about how the fact that the Earth's transmissions, FM stations and all of that, TV stations, are omnidirectional. makes it more difficult to detect in a very, very at a great distance in the universe compared to a very focused beam of signal. So it's kind of interesting. And they were saying that if you're 1,000 light years away, it's almost impossible to even detect that there's something happening around Earth because of the fact that it's not a centralized beam of RF, but rather a noisy background around the planet, which is kind of interesting. So Rufus, it became a BOINC, BOINC at one point, but at the first run, and I remember because I was one of the first people to actually run it, it was basically just a SETI app that you would install, and that was, I'm talking about 1998, 97-ish, at the beginning of the internets and all of that. And you would install that app. And I remember being amazed at the colorful little graphic with peaks, thinking that maybe I'd be the one that I'll be on TV someday, that I was the one that found that extraterrestrial civilization. And then they integrated that into that thing, BOINC thing, that was a scientific thing that had many different uses. Let me try to lure LRR lure. You want to come here? Everybody wants to see you. Paul the cat is in the house. I just want to. He wants to, but he doesn't know. Oh, he's gonna come the other way. Come on. Here we go. Let's do something like this. And do something like that. So let's see. Yeah, he doesn't want to. He's scared. Last time he fell in a bowl of water. So Paul the cat is in the house. So Butterbean at SETI on his PC too. Chemexy76, if we keep talking UFOs, we're going to get visited by the man in black. Crazy. Come on. Get down. Get see. No. He doesn't want to. Oh, man. Okay. Glenn Zegman, no intelligence on that planet. Next. Yeah, RSP-18 Ken tune 1420 megahertz, which is isn't that the resonance of hydrogen? Something like that? Yep. Get that. Yeah, here we go. The mascot is in the house, guys. The real extraterrestrial, because he's the one that came on our planet. You know, you guys don't know it, but cats came here in a spaceship. We saw it in Futurama. They want to change the Earth's spin or something, because on their planet they're dying. Paul the cat is in the house talking about aliens and alien life. I want to be transported in a planet where there's only cats. Oh, man. So, kind of nice. It's an interesting discussion. And I think we're having a lot of fun. Omar Meng, nice to have you here from Florida. Rufus Newt, open a beer. Shelly, nice to have you here. Do it. Get another beer. Please continue, says Jasmine. I feel like everybody's on their knees saying, please do continue, please. Matt, more beer. Already, man. Roll on, Jill. Randall Klontz, why not? Oh, man. At least we'll have tuned a signal from space, hopefully. Jasmine says the good news is all those people who are learning SETI at home can run folding at home on the same platform. Maybe find a cure for coronavirus. Yep. It is kind of cool, though. Rifleman 336, how about very low frequencies? That reminds me of the when there was the documentary about the probes, the Voyager probes, when they reached Jupiter, was the first target, and they heard spherics. Which is, if you have, everybody heard of, those, they call it Earth receivers. They're like very low frequency receivers that receive way, way, way down and the few kilohertz range. And you hear whistles, and the kind of whistles that go, up and down in frequency. And here on Earth, we understand that whistles are the interaction of the core geomagnetic field, but also the thunderstorms and lightning create whistles and spherics and all sorts of things. And when they went to Jupiter, they had a radio on board the Voyager probe that could listen down to the VLF frequencies. And they were listening to spherics, the same kind of spherics that were here on Earth. And they understood that, and for the first time, they had detected thunderstorms on another planet. And all of that due to the VLF frequency range that they could listen to, actually. So it's crazy. And when you think about it, it's amazing. XNEDXer, remember when Futurama was on Fox Network? I got the whole series of Futurama here. It's just so crazy. Rifleman 336, the Oscar frequency is 145,880. Plus or minus Doppler shift. Remember, it's an FM mode because this is an FM repeater in the sky. And this is a so plus or minus Doppler, which means that as he arrives, it's around 145,887,888, and it goes down, centers, and then goes down. So plus or minus 10 kilohertz, and you'll be able to hear it. Thanks, Joe Brown. It's also known as Fox 1D, absolutely. AO92. Hopefully, we're going to hear some. I don't know if you guys are going to hear it because I know this is very directional, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun to try it out. And it's going to have an interesting aspect to the show today. Jasmine, in fact, SETI estimates that the military radars in use in the Cold War would have been detectable by Arecibo about 3,000 light years. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting. But you got to be there in the right place at the right time because that didn't last for a long time. And I know there were a few broadcasts to the universe, including one with a Beatles song, which was across the universe, sent out with a very powerful signal. So, RJ Dakota, they're listening to Amos and Andy reruns. Well, it's like in that movie, Contact, when the aliens bring back the 1936 Olympics in Germany with the Nazis, and you see Adolf Hitler, and nobody finds it really funny that they're sending that back, but at the same time, they have no idea of what it is exactly. Hey, Audrey. Paul says back to you. Hello, back to you, Audrey. He's a sweet cat. Jasmine says, Joe, you have to say that in your Joe Jones voice. Cats came here in a spaceship to say. So, I was talking to my friend in Congress. They're telling me that cats actually rule the earth, and that one day we're gonna be our slaves to cats. And that day, you better scoop up the litter box. That's why I have a special offer for you today. a special golden litter box. It sucks all the shit from the cat in one scoop. Oh, God. RML 261, you got a real cool radio room. Thank you very much. Paul just saw something. Yeah. An alien. Butterbean, my dog is watching Paul close. Ooh, that doesn't sound right. Unless he's a nice dog. RJ Dakota says, my cat Oscar says hello to Paul the cat. I saw a story about a cat island. Oh, man. Laz Aris, nice to have you here from Melbourne. Pretty cool to see you from Australia, my friend. RJ Dakota, Paul's a beautiful cat. Jasmine, Gel, the RSP-1A tunes all the way down to 1 hertz. Can you hear spherics? You know what? I think you need a dedicated receiver. That's a good question, but I think you really need a dedicated receiver for that. I've never seen anybody receive the spherics with a regular receiver. They all build that. There's that circuit that's all around the internet that you can build your own receiver for the long wave spherics and stuff. So look at that. He's just like letting himself massage. Look at that. I'm massaging Paul's head. And he loves it too. Paul the cat. Yeah. So can he see himself in the mirror, in the monitor? You know what? He in a screen or in a mirror or anything, he doesn't react. I don't know why he doesn't. I see some cats react to seeing their if there's another cat, he looks in the mirror or he looks at a screen where he sees it like he's there and he's like, what's interesting in there? It's almost as if it's like, yeah, so it's me. Yeah, okay. Oh, man. Reverend Dr. Will Green, nice to have you on board from San Diego. And cool. I will look at that and give me a day or two, and I will be answering. Oh yeah, it's amazing. Kamexi 1976. The signal here is so weak. They have to use tons of computer processing in order to be able to receive the signal from Voyager because it's so far away. What else do we have? Rev, Dr. Will Green basically was asking what your thoughts of using an MLA 30 plus indoors in my micro studio apartment. You know, it's always a quick question that it's tough to answer. It depends on how much noise you've got in that environment. When I use an MLA 30 here in my office, so I use as an example my office. It's a rough one because it's very noisy, and even though I can play it, it's kind of difficult. But I see a lot of people that have great results using one indoors. And if there's no possibility of anything outdoor, if there's no possibility of an outdoor antenna of any kind, that is your best bet. If that doesn't work, nothing will, and you'll have to listen to shortwave somewhere else where there's less noises, unfortunately. But a lot of people have amazing results indoor with the MLA 30. That was great, Jill Jones. Oh, man. Gary Ford, nice to have you here in the Arecibo, Puerto Rico. Yes, they use it for all sorts of signals on HF. A little bit like a like a... so let me just put myself on that frequency. Okay, perfect antenna is antenna A for the VHF one. FM mode. So let me just put a very lower... We should see something appear in the display here when it actually approaches. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I will let Paul the cat out, and I will actually go and pee at the same time because I want to pee and I want to get another beer. So I'm back in 2 seconds, guys. I kicked the camera. And we are back. Ricker's White. Oh, God. So, hope you're enjoying the show tonight. We were talking about space, so we're going to tune a signal from space in a few minutes. Hopefully, there's going to be some activity there. And there's going to be some signals coming from an amateur satellite that is orbiting the planet on a VHF range. I know it's a little out of the shortwave side of things, but we have been pretty much UFO, space, and space signals tonight. So why not just, tune around? Oh, man. Oh, Paul, yes, absolutely. He is purring, I can tell you. When I start petting him, I can tell you. Yep, William Helms, limited time exclusive offer. The self-cleaning Scoopy. Cheers, everybody. Nice to have you here, Gary Ford from Dallas, Texas. Smurgle. Nope, Paul does not chew on wires. He does not do anything bad. He's really, really a great little cat, I can tell you. Best cat you can have. KX2U, nice to have you on board. Anyone home? We're all at home. We've been at home for the last month now. Take care, William Helms. RJ Dakota, have a small homemade loop antenna outside of the work shed where I listen. Homemade loop works quite well. So we are a few minutes from acquiring the signal. Let's just check it out where it is. I can actually, I forgot about that, but I can fire Orbitron on this machine and check out where it is. Fox 1D. I'm going to check it out. Where is Fox 1B. Here it is. It is. So you guys in the southeast of the United States can hear it right now. Signal is almost reaching Montreal already. So that's Fox 1B, 1D, sorry. AO92 also. 145.880. And it's uplink. Anybody that is an AM radio operator, its uplink is 435.350. And you can actually talk to the bird. And here we go. So that satellite is 4645. That's where we are at here. 4645. Yep, pretty much. So technically, it should be, it's going to be good for all of the eastern part of the United States in Canada. And part of the middle part of US and Canada also. So this is really cute. Okay. We should see something that will appear. Let me just zoom in. Let me just make sure my VHF antenna works well. 162.400. Yep.
1 foot or less. Saturday, northwest winds 10 knots or less. Mostly sunny. Waves 1 foot or less. Saturday night, west winds 10.
And now we'll zoom in a little more. And hopefully we'll see something appear and the waterfall. Let's hope that we'll see something in the waterfall. Ham radio KN4YEM. Let's have you here. You hear him in the restroom because that was the dangerous part when I had the wireless microphone. Zanzibar, nice to have you on board. Got a PL600. What should I get next with the same price point? As a receiver? You mean as another radio? I would try to, it's a little more expensive, but not that much. I would try to go to the XH Data D808. You're going to love it. You're in analysis. Have you come across banned or more or less jammed? No. So, yeah, something here. I see a slight something right here. Let me just make sure I'm not, 12K. Oh, yeah, there's something here. So I'm narrow FM. Make sure in narrow FM. If you have just a talkie, try it. Even with a rubber ducky, if it passes overhead, you'll be surprised at what you can actually listen to. Jasmine, love it. In just a few clicks, we have gone from Gilles shortwave listening post to Gilles satellite earth station. Oh, you're saying goodbye to the X, William Helms. Sorry. Hey, John McClure. Nice to have you here. Oh. Yeah, getting better. So what you see here, that trace is an actual signal from that satellite. It's just not strong enough yet. VE3DLO, nice to have you here. Let's see here. What's the eighth right now? It's pretty high right now. I should be hearing it quite well. There we go. I heard somebody say one station one more time. Signal is not super strong. Hopefully, it's going to get better. Rev, Dr. Green says, recently purchased BL880. On both its whip antenna and my long were on the roof of my building. I'm unable to pick up any traffic on the CB band. No, it should be. Well, here we go. Come on, guys. Get a strong signal. Yes, you can use a mag loop on the PL600 Zanzibar, like the MLA30. Yes, it's a repeater in the sky, Rifleman 336. It's actually like a repeater on 2 meters, but it's a satellite that does a repeater. Unfortunately, the signal's not very good here. Oh, it's getting better. Hope somebody's going to call. Come on, guys. I need to get a really better antenna for like some a discount or something. I heard somebody talking a couple of minutes ago, but it's not strong enough. I need to check my setup because usually I often. Oh, here we go. It's sad because I'm hearing some talk, but it's way weak. Laz Aris just loaded Arbitron after seeing a reference. Is there a repository for the essential programs I should look for? Not really. Anybody using Arbitron, by the way, in Windows 7 or up, Windows 10, Windows 8, Windows 7, make sure that you right-click on the executable and put it as an administrative program, because he won't actually update the 2-line elements for the satellites. Unfortunately, it's too weak. Sad. Would have been fun to have some voice. I heard a little bit of voice, but it was a noise all the time. So kind of cool. So this is one, all the Fox 1D, 1D, 1B, all the AO satellites are repeaters, FM repeaters in the sky. They are really cool. AO91 coming up later at midnight. They're fun. And the XW ones are fun also because they are on upper sideband, and they are easier to actually pick up if you have a single sideband capable VHF receiver. But anyways, we saw it appear and disappear. It's kind of nice. So that's a good idea that I've never done a video about it. The essential software you should actually have for listening and decoding and all of that. That's a good video I should make. Absolutely. That's absolutely something I should make. So, So, anyways, we just did have a signal from space, and there were no aliens and no extraterrestrials in there. Just just amateur satellites. Hillbilly Mustangs, nice to have you here. Where are you from? So we digressed out of the shortwave spectrum a little bit here, but let's go back down to 6,000 kilohertz with Radio Vanucuba. Radio Vanucuba. Old radio man. No aliens that I know of. Yes. Okay. Fair play. Hillbilly is outside Houston. Cool. There's Crafters Kitchen. Satellites here barely broke my squelch on Kenwood R2000. And you know what? This one was a pass. Maybe that was not the best because my mobile vertical receives better on one side than the other. But honestly, one of the things I noticed, so Radio Vanucuba, 6,000 kilohertz, coming in quite well with a little distortion, but we can hear what they're saying. So I've been playing with UHF for the past couple of days. And I need to go outside in the back to look at my antenna because I don't seem to have the reception I used to have. It seems to be weaker. When I look at the NOAA weather station from Plattsburgh, Vermont, or Burlington, Vermont, 162-400, it doesn't seem to be as strong. It doesn't seem to be as strong. William Moser, I like waterfall because it's kind of nice to see everything on the waterfall. And the waterfall, it makes it easy to kind of identify what type of signal it is also at the same time. It's kind of nice. So, hey guys, we've been on for 3 hours. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. We'll be back Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, at 20 hours Universal Time. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. We talked about so many things. It's kind of fun. We have a lot of different things we talk about. We talk about space signals and about aliens and sky, and it's fun sometimes to just go around. I know that for some people it's not always what they want, but I think it adds to the overall aspect of the show and what we talk about and have fun talking about. So you guys are great. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget, there's always the PayPal donations if you like what I do. And hope everybody is staying safe, and hope everybody's having a good time listening to the radio. Tune the radio. Lots of stuff to listen to. We are here twice a week on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 0 UT. And Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, 20 UT. We have a show. Me and Sheldon Harvey have a show on ckut.ca on Sunday at 14:30 UT called the International Radio Report. ckut.ca, 14:30 UT on Sunday. If you miss it, there's an archive. We recorded, because we can't go to the station right now, we recorded on Friday afternoon at 1 p.m. and I send it in, and we have that show every week. Hope you enjoyed that also. Canadian International DX Club, a fantastic place where you can actually get a great bulletin called The Messenger, and you can get a sample copy, CIDXclub at yahoo.com, CIDXclub at yahoo.com. Ask Sheldon for a sample if you never asked for one before, and it's a great publication. Even though it says Canadian in the title, it is for everybody around the world. I have the utility column, and there's so much more in there good for newcomers that are trying to learn the hobby, and for even seasoned listeners and ham radio operators that have been listening for years. There's always something for everybody in that bulletin. Stay safe, everybody. Take care. Love you all. Okay. And see you Friday on the Shortwave Radio live stream, where we talk about everything from aliens to spherics, where you can listen to the planet breathe. Take care, my friends. Love you all.